Khabib Nurmagomedov, the unyielding eagle. The arena was electric that night, filled with eager spectators buzzing with anticipation. Amidst the hum of the crowd, one name echoed in their minds: Khabib Nurmagomedov. This young man, hailing from the rugged mountains of Dagestan, was not just a fighter but a force of nature. His silent resolve, cold eyes, and unrelenting style had earned him a reputation that sent shivers down the spine of any man brave enough to face him. Born in the small village of Sildi, Khabib's story was one of discipline and fortitude. From a young age, he was trained in the arts of wrestling, judo, and sambo by his father, who was himself a seasoned coach. By the time he was a teenager, Khabib was already considered a prodigy in Dagestan's combat sports scene. His family's humble lifestyle and his father's strict regimen built a foundation of mental toughness that set him apart from his peers. As Khabib rose through the ranks, he carried with him the weight of his people's pride. His undefeated record, undeterred by injury or doubt, was the envy of all. By 2011, Khabib was already a known name in the world of mixed martial arts, making his way to the grand stage with an unwavering focus on victory. The fight on June 2, 2011, would be another stepping stone, a moment where he would cement his legacy. Arayamarcel Santos, the Brazilian who lived for the fight. On the other side of the ring stood Arayamarcel Santos, a fighter from Brazil who had tasted both triumph and defeat in his journey. With a fierce spirit that matched his striking ability, Santos was known for his heart as much as his power. Hailing from the streets of Rio de Janeiro, Arayamarcel's upbringing was one of struggle. From a young age, he'd been forced to fend for himself in the unforgiving city, learning to fight not just in the gym but in the alleyways and on the streets where survival was the ultimate goal. Despite the hardships, Santos found solace in martial arts. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was in his blood, but he wasn't just about submissions. Arayamarcel was a hybrid fighter, an individual who combined his ground game with lightning-fast punches and sharp kicks. His aggressive style had earned him a reputation as a fighter you didn't take lightly. However, while his striking was powerful, there were still gaps in his skill set, particularly in dealing with relentless grapplers like Khabib. By the time June 2, 2011, rolled around, Santos had seen both the peaks and valleys of his career. The match with Khabib was not just another fight. It was a chance for him to prove that his skill set could overcome the famous Dagestani wrestler's relentless pressure. The Brazilian wasn't intimidated. He was determined. The stage is set, Pro FC Battle on the Caucasus. The night in question was Special Pro FC Battle on the Caucasus was about to begin. The crowd was a mixture of passionate Dagestani fans, loud Brazilian supporters, and neutral spectators eager for a spectacle. The tension in the arena was palpable, and the air felt thick as the fighters made their way to the octagon. As Khabib entered, his stoic expression never wavered. He didn't look at the crowd. He didn't look at his opponent. His eyes were locked in one direction: toward victory. He had one goal, one focus: to win. The champion had come for a fight, and there would be no compromise. On the other side, Arayamarcel Santos danced with excitement as he entered the ring, his fists clenched with the confidence of a man who had spent years honing his craft in Brazil's toughest gyms. He could feel the energy of the crowd, but inside, he was calm, ready. This was the moment to show the world that he could stand toe-to-toe with the best. The first round, clash of styles, the bell rang, and the two warriors circled each other. Khabib's stance was low, his movements calculated. Santos, on the other hand, danced lightly on his feet, looking for openings. The first exchange came quickly. Santos launched a quick jab aimed at Khabib's face, but the Dagestani fighter, Ever the technician, sidestepped and closed the distance with his signature pressure. Santos tried to create space with a combination of strikes, throwing hooks and kicks to keep Khabib at bay. But Khabib wasn't one to be deterred by flashy punches. He absorbed the strikes, keeping his eyes focused on his opponent's movements. In a flash, Khabib ducked under a high kick, moved in swiftly, and clinched Santos against the cage. Santos struggled, but Khabib's grip was unyielding. He slammed his shoulder into the Brazilian's chest, pinning him against the cage. The crowd roared as Khabib's legendary wrestling technique went to work. Santos, though skilled on the ground, had never faced anyone with the level of pressure Khabib brought to bear. The Dagestani fighter's relentless pursuit of control was overwhelming.
The takedown and the end. With just under 3 minutes into the first round, Khabib saw his moment. He shot in for a takedown, lifting Santos off his feet and slamming him to the mat. The sound of their bodies hitting the canvas echoed through the arena. Santos tried to scramble, but Khabib was a cagey veteran. His transitions were smooth, his movements fluid. There was no escape. Santos fought valiantly, his fists swinging and his legs kicking to create some space, but Khabib was methodical, placing punches with surgical precision. Each strike was calculated to wear Santos down, to break his spirit. The Brazilian fought back with all his heart, but as the clock ticked away, it became clear Khabib was a step ahead. In the final moments of the first round, Khabib unleashed a barrage of punches. Santos, exhausted from the constant pressure, couldn't keep up. With a series of strikes to the head, Khabib dropped his opponent. The referee stepped in, calling the fight to a halt at 3:33 of the first round. Aftermath: the Eagle's flight. As the crowd erupted into applause, Khabib stood victorious, his undefeated record intact. He didn't celebrate with exuberance. Instead, he simply nodded to the crowd and thanked them for their support. His mind was already on the next challenge, the next fight. There was no time for rest. Arayamarcel Santos, though defeated, stood up and walked out of the cage with his head held high. The Brazilian had given it his all, but Khabib had shown why he was considered one of the best. It was a fight that, while brief, would be remembered as another chapter in the story of a future legend. In conclusion, the epic journey. The fight between Khabib Nurmagomedov and Arayamarcel Santos was more than just a battle of physical prowess, it was a clash of two distinct worlds, one defined by relentless discipline and the other by sheer heart and willpower. It was a moment in time where the world watched in awe as a future champion further solidified his place in history. For Khabib, it was just another step on the path to greatness. For Santos, it was a reminder that the road to the top was never easy, but every fight was an opportunity to learn and grow. The story of that night, June 2, 2011, was told in every corner of the arena, whispered from fan to fan, and carried forward in the annals of combat sports history.